Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last really fun group ride. You're back at the parking lot. The stoke is high. Everyone's talking about the ride, bikes, tech, nutrition. That's what we talk about every week on the Ride and Laugh podcast. We love bikes. You love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you today?
Danny, I am so sick of the winter that I am visualizing and bringing in the summer with my Hawaiian shirt, my friend.
For everyone listening on their podcast player, Sage is wearing sunglasses and a very dashingly handsome Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And looking quite tan. Obviously, you've been going to the tanning booth. Or is that just your natural Japanese complexion?
Yeah.
Well, we're still in the dead of winter, and I know you're not getting out on the bicycle a lot. There's a cold snap going through the whole country. Arizona is getting hotter. Somehow it's just like complete opposite of everywhere else.
I hate you.
What are you gonna do? I didn't mean to brag. I guess I am bragging. I mean, it's going into the 80s. It's getting really hot.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I would love that. Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. The riding weather is so good in the winter. I know.
Yeah. You know, Danny, I actually don't mind the cold temps. It's the wind. Right. I honestly could care less how cold it gets, but that wind just rips the warmth from your body. It's just like, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
You told me you got out for a ride today, and you said that, and you mentioned this about the wind, and I totally agree. Like, it's a different level. There's one thing about getting that warmth, and you have the right layers, and you get warmed up, and you kind of build that layer of heat under your layers, and it just stays with you. And the wind will just take that away, and really can just get cold to your core. But usually when we get into the woods, that's one of the things I love about mountain biking, is that when we get into the woods, the wind is blocked. So was it just the trail system?
No, there's no leaves on the trees. It just, the wind just comes right through.
Oh, man, what a bummer.
Yeah. I know. So, hey, what are you going to do?
Well, I like it. You're faking it till you make it. And you're envisioning the warm weather. You're picturing the warm weather. It's going to happen. There's going to be warm weather either where you are, or you're going to come to the warm weather, brother. So it's happening.
Oh, yes, it's happening. It's happening.
I have a quick question for you. So last week I talked about taking my break from mountain biking when it appeared. And in this case, it was I had injured my quad, and I took about a week and a half off of the bike until it felt better. Yeah. And when I got back on the bike, it was healed, and I did have that break built in there. One of the things I noticed that I often don't notice is after taking a break, I really noticed my hands. I noticed the calluses on my hands. Do you get calluses on your hands from mountain biking? And do they, have you ever had that where they start to heal and then you start riding and you're kind of rebuilding them? You know what I mean?
I do get calluses on my hands, and this might be gross or maybe not gross, but I actually have to cut the calluses off with a razor. What? Because the callus gets so big, it's painful. It's painful to grip, or if I'm holding a pen or something like that. So I'll literally shave them down with a razor. No, they're actual calluses. No,
they get
definitely not.
They get so big you have to slice them off.
Yeah, I used to. I held up my right hand. On my left hand, I used to have the wedding ring. And the wedding ring used to hit the callus. It would hurt so bad that I would, and so I started shaving it down with a razor.
But wait, the whole reason your body makes the callus is to toughen the skin so it doesn't hurt. I think they're blisters. I think you have blisters.
No, they're not blisters. And I still have calloused hands. I just have to take them down a little bit.
That is crazy. And then you collect the calluses in a jar, and what do you do with them? There's a black market for everything. You'd be surprised. You don't want to know, but you'd be surprised. Yeah. I live with a Gmail.
I just
fires or ideas.
I just got like a Silence of the Lambs, you know, it puts the calluses in the jar.
Oh, yeah. You can totally start making lampshades out of your calluses. It's the grossest thing I've ever heard of. God. Think about all the serial killers that we could get rid of. Like, you don't need to kill people anymore. This dude's giving you skin. It's free skin. This is like, and it's tough.
Terrible.
This is tough. Like, you know, this is skin that's created through the fires of mountain biking. You know, when I thought about asking you this question, because I started noticing my calluses, and I'm thinking I'm gripping too hard. Because in mountain biking, if you don't have them yet, or if you don't have them at all, the calluses are usually at the base of your finger and like on your palm, right at the base of your finger. And I don't get them on my index finger because I'm braking with that finger. I guess that one isn't as attached.
That's interesting.
I have them on my middle finger, my ring finger, my pinky. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
I'm not cutting them off, so I'm keeping them. But I was sure that I had these calluses because I was gripping too hard, and I was like 90% sure that you were going to tell me that because you are such a fluid rider and because you have your weight in your feet all the time, that you don't have calluses. I thought you were going to tell me that you didn't have calluses.
Yeah, I don't have many. It's just maybe 2 right here on the palm, right where the finger meets the palm. Yeah. And my right hand barely has any. It's mostly my left. So I don't know why that is. I feel like. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, listeners, are we all getting calloused hands? Does it mean something? Are we gripping too hard? Like our pro level riders or our teachers out there, is that an indication that we're gripping too hard? Should we be, you know, they say heavy feet, light fingers, right? Tea party fingers.
Yeah.
So
I was just imagining like shaking a pro's hand and it's just like really soft, no calluses. You're like, whoa, this guy's grip is.
Now I see why Jurgen sponsored him. It makes sense now. Yeah. I didn't understand why pro riders had lotion sponsors until now. This makes a lot more sense than my original idea, which makes no sense. All right.
Oh boy.
Red Lamp on a Gmail. Keep your lotion jokes to the Gmail, not to the YouTube comments, please.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm curious about the calluses. Do we all have them? That's interesting. I was sure that you were going to tell me that I was gripping the handlebars too hard. Maybe it's the tech climbing. Is it the climbing? You know, like because you're kind of rowing, especially if you're on the hardtail or the single speed, which I can't even like use the single speed as an excuse, but there's so much input when you're rowing the bike, like when you're climbing.
Yeah. Do you grip harder when you climb than on a downhill?
Probably.
I grip harder when I'm downhilling.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because when we go to the downhill park, it's the one thing that I'll tell you. Like you tell me that your quads burn, but my quads never burn. Yeah. It's usually like my forearms start to burn, and that's when I realized, dude, you are death gripping this thing, and that's the next run. I usually try and lighten up, and that it usually solves the problem. So yeah, so
and
you
you're
grip harder
better
on the climb.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to pay attention.
Yeah.
You know how they have those the grip meters? Like, can we put those on bikes so that we could see when we're gripping the hardest?
Well, I mean
that would have to like tie in with that would have to tie in with like a GPS and everything so that you could tell where you are on the ride that you're gripping the hardest. I wonder if there's systems that do that. Yeah.
Have you had interest? Are you interested in trying out the Rev Grips? Those are the grips that move. I think Dane had them on his bike or someone we know had Rev Grips, and I wonder if that would help. Yeah. You know, to loosen up your grip. I don't know what the concept is behind it, except I know that it's made to move a little bit. That would bother the heck out of me. And they're a little bit thick, and I don't like thick grips. Do you like thick grips?
Yeah, I do like a thicker grip, but I'm a big guy. I have a bigger hand.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might like the Rev Grips.
I might. I'm curious now. Ride and Laugh on Gmail or YouTube comments. Has anyone tried those? What's the theory behind them? Rev Grips, reach out to us. Let us know. That's very interesting. I'm very curious how that would work, and does that eliminate the calluses? And you know, is a callus an indication that you're over gripping, or is it just an indication that you're riding your bike a lot?
I was just about to say it just means that you ride your bike a lot, Danny, and that's good.
Yes. All right. Well, we are reviewing your best next mountain bike may surprise you. E-bike versus dirt jumper for progression, episode 53.
Oof.
Really fun episode. We were really talking about the third mountain bike that you would buy if you had a hardtail and a full suspension trail bike already. What's the next best bike for progression and for fun? And it was a really fun conversation, and we got a ton of comments, maybe the most comments we've ever gotten. If you haven't seen the YouTube, it's really worth going back, and the YouTube's great anyway. But the comments are just great, and there's some conversations going on in there. So really interesting stuff. I would say, what was your take? I would say that it was pretty split between e-bike and dirt jumper. I thought there was a lot of good points for both of them. Did you feel like the comments led more one direction?
I think more people agreed with the e-bike. There was only maybe a handful of people that went dirt jumper, which I expected. You know, it like you had pointed out in that show, that's a very specific bike for a very specific purpose. And so if you're not interested in jumping or you don't have a bike park near you, that doesn't make sense. Whereas an e-bike is a very versatile bike, and no matter where you are, you can use an e-bike. And so that made sense. I think it was a good topic for us to tackle and just kind of take a firm stance on a bike. And I think we had a lot of fun with it. And I think that's why we got a lot of comments. I think that showed through.
Yeah, I did. And I think you made, and our listeners made a lot of really good comments and points for the dirt jumper. You know, when you told me that the e-bike was a possibility, I haven't listened to the episode, go back and listen. When I figure out that the e-bike is a possibility of the remaining bikes, I was like, oh, what? E-bike. and I stand by that. But some of the really interesting and good points for the dirt jumper are the low cost and taking up very little room.
Yeah.
And then of course, what are you interested in? So if you're interested in jumping, or if you have a pump track nearby, then you know it's kind of a home run thing to keep in your garage. It makes a lot of sense.
You know,
and
one thing that I don't think anybody brought up was not only is it low cost, but they're also really robust. They're almost like a BMX bike. So there's very little to go wrong on it. So it's a very durable bike, you know, whereas the e-bike, I've heard a lot of stories actually from Dennis tells me all the time about like his e-bike and the motor problems that he has. And it's a lot of components. It's a lot of parts, and the dirt jumper is very simple. It's a very simple bike.
Yeah, totally agree with that. It is an easy bike to maintain. It takes almost no work except for like putting air on the tires. You're not going to even be blowing. You're not going to be wearing tires out for the most part because you're not riding it. You're riding it on pretty smooth area. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things where once you buy it, you're kind of done.
Yeah.
Now, so one of our big dirt jumper advocates, of course, is Steve at Ben Spokes. And Steve's an awesome dude, great rider, and he's got his channel and his Instagram, so check that out. I said on that episode, is a dirt jumper mountain biking? Is dirt jumping mountain biking?
Yeah.
So Steve said, no, dirt jumping is not mountain biking, but it'll make you better at mountain biking. And he also said that dirt jumpers are BMX for adults. It's just it's a bigger bike. It's a little bit easier to handle than a BMX.
Oh,
okay. Several people. I'll just keep going. It's the first time that's happened. Usually I stop talking and you have something to say. You're like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't hear a question.
He's right. Steve is correct. I did not answer. Yeah, I'm sorry. Was there a question there? Usually we're interrupting each other because we have such fascinating and interesting things to say that we're talking over each other.
Well, I did find that fascinating, and I found it fascinating when you said it on the show that you didn't think that dirt jumping was mountain biking, and I still don't know how I feel about that. You know, I in one sense, I see what you're saying. But on the other sense, I mean, where does the line get drawn of when a mountain bike ends and, you know, and these other subset of bikes begins? You know, you have so many bikes that blur the lines. You know, I think we got another comment about a gravel bike, you know, and, you know, gravel bike. I mean, nobody would consider that a mountain bike, I think, but you are riding on mountain bike trails. That's the point of a gravel bike, you know? I mean, yes, you're doing gravel as well, but you can take it on single track, you know, cyclocross bikes, dirt jumpers, You know, there's so many like of these like little subset of bikes. And yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know where I fall on that.
We had people say, here's the bikes that I have. Here's the order of bikes that I got. You know, some people started with a hardtail. Some people started with a full sus and then went hardtail. And some people, I think it was Aaron that said he has an enduro bike and he's got a gravel bike. So like the two extremes, you know, he can ride this enduro bike at parks and then he's like training on the gravel bike.
I love that.
For me, like it's mountain biking when you're on the mountain bike trail. So if you take that gravel bike onto trails, then you're mountain biking. And if you're on the road, then you're road riding. You know, it really comes to an under biking versus over biking. And then we talk about learning skills on a hardtail. What skills are you going to learn by riding a fully rigid gravel bike on trails?
I don't know how much you would learn. And here's the thing, the gravel bike is so drastically different from a mountain bike because of your body position. It's very much a road bike with just bigger tires and the geometry is a little bit more slacked out in areas to make it a lot more comfortable, but it's still very road bikey in terms of its geometry. So how much of that can you take to mountain biking? I don't know. I don't know. And Aaron, maybe you can help us with that one. The real question is I agree with you. If you take a bike onto mountain bike trails, you are mountain biking. But what makes a mountain bike? You know, is a gravel bike a mountain bike? I mean, it sounds like it's a no. You know, is a dirt jumper a mountain bike? It sounds like you're saying a no. I'm saying I don't know. What about fat bikes? What about, you know what I mean? Like, what makes a mountain bike a mountain bike?
Well, knobby tires.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe that's it.
I mean,
if you're riding slicks, you're not really riding trails. Even the flowiest of flow trails, you're not going out there with slicks. You need some sort of knobs. You need to be able to hook up. Your tires need to hook up in dirt.
I mean, that's a pretty solid argument there. But you know, gravel bikes do have knobs, and I'm putting knobs on my dirt jumper.
Yeah. Well, then those, boy. Okay. I mean, you can modify any bike for anything, right? I mean, you could put slicks on your mountain bike and call it a road bike.
Yeah. Well, I know a few people that have done that.
I guess if you're buying a gravel bike, you're taking it on trails. Otherwise, there's no reason to not just get a road bike, right?
Yeah, man, dude. I was at Keswick, the local bike shop to here, and Gary was showing me the new gravel bikes that are out. They have front and rear suspension now. Like it's unbelievable. And then the way that this is designed, the bars can absorb the shocks. Like this is not your grandfather's gravel bike. Like this isn't like, oh, we took a road bike and put bigger. These are specialty bikes, and it's incredible how far they've come. And I don't know much about cyclocross, but I guess that would kind of fall into that as well. I would totally get one.
Are those different bikes? Cyclocross bikes are different than gravel bikes?
Yeah, like a cyclocross bike, I think, and I could be wrong on this, but a cyclocross bike typically only has a one by.
Because you're not riding on the road. You're riding it for cyclocross races, which are like on grass. If anyone doesn't know what cyclocross is, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I believe they're 1 hour races. That's a loop and you're jumping on and off the bike. They put obstacles in the way that you almost have to like jump off the bike, carry the bike over the obstacle. Like think of like a 2-inch vertical wooden board or 2 foot vertical wooden board.
2 inch. People are getting off for 2 inch.
Also, the people riding it are incredibly little, small, tiny people. So 2 inches, you know, it's a big deal for these miniature people. No, like a 2 foot, I don't know, 2 foot, 1 foot, but they're big enough that it's you when you see cyclocross, they're constantly jumping on and off, and it looks like the races are just done like on a grassy hill. Like it's not even, they're not really trails.
Yeah, grass is a big component. Yeah. What I will say is those races look like a lot of fun because of the people. Like the people at cyclocross races, you always see them with like IPAs and they're just like in funny costumes and just everyone's having a great time. The crowds are, that's what's nice about a cyclocross race because the loop is small. You can get a lot of people. And so it's a really good open. Time.
It's a great viewer. Mountain bike races are notoriously hard to spectate at because it's in the woods and you only get to see a small section of it. But I guess cyclocross, I guess if you get the right spot, you could probably see half of the course. Yeah. So can imagine it's action packed. Anyone do cyclocross? Is how popular is that now? I'm not sure. Ride and Laugh on the Gmail. Anyone do mountain bike and cyclocross? Curious. It's never appealed to me. I don't want to ride a bike on grass.
Me either.
I hate riding bikes on grass, actually.
Yeah, I know. I'm
and I hate having to get off my bike. I don't want to get off my bike to get over obstacles. I want to ride my bike over obstacles. And it's kind of a road bike. There's very little about it that appeals to me personally. Maybe I should try it. I don't know.
I like to road bike, but I would not be interested in doing a cyclocross. I only road bike really for the fitness part of it. And that's why the gravel bike is really intriguing to me because, man, if I could take that road bike and take it right onto the trail and get like 5 or 6 miles of trail in my road ride, like that would be amazing. Like I would absolutely love that. So yeah, not into cyclocross. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I would definitely be interested in a gravel bike.
Would you still need a road bike if you had a gravel bike?
No, I would keep the road bike just because it's not worth anything to anyone at this point. It's so old. I think it's like a 2014 and it's got like 12,000 miles. So, I would probably keep it, but no, I would never ride it again. Maybe put it on a trainer. I don't know.
Okay. Really sold that road bike. It's a good thing. It's a good thing you want to keep it, not sell it, because you're like, anyone that would want to buy this from me is an idiot. I mean, you would have to be so dumb to give me money for this bike. Like, Ixnay on a real natural salesperson here.
Yeah.
All right. So I thought Joe, who I have ridden at South Mountain with, absolute shredder.
Yeah.
He made a really good case, which I've also said before, for having at least 5 bikes. And both of our comments were, yes, completely agree. We would actually even go more because I thought all the bikes that he listed were great. And I was like, but you also need a single speed and an e-bike in there. So my ideal garage is looking like 7 or 8 bikes. You just can't tell someone who, when they deciding to get their third bike or when they're deciding to get their first bike, like, yeah, you're going to be buying 5 of these, by the way. You're going to save a solid like $18,000 to $20,000. You might want to sell your car.
Yeah. And get another shed. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely don't tell your spouse, if they're not into riding, how many bikes you're going to need to collect to enjoy mountain biking.
No. You got to get the same color bike every time, Danny. And that's why, and then you could say, no, honey, I've had that bike. No, please. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gaslighting you. It's the same bike. You're crazy. You keep looking at the same bike and thinking I got another bike. I don't know where all the money's going in the bank account, but it's not bikes. I can tell you that. And I'm getting tons of money for these bikes that I'm selling that I'm telling everyone are worth absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Yes. Abundance. We want all the bikes. Bikes are so much fun. And you ride different places, and it's like, man, I would love to try this type of bike here or this bike here. We go to the bike park and downhill bike. We stopped talking about downhill bikes lately because we haven't been going to the bike park because it's not bike park season. Yeah. But once that comes up again, like we'll probably start talking about how cool it would be to have a downhill bike. And I'm riding all these trails at South Mountain, and I'm seeing these guys like go faster and faster on XC bikes. And I'm like, man, maybe an XC bike would be cool. Yeah, it's just so much fun. Obviously, when you fall in love with mountain biking, a lot of times you're falling in love with the experience of riding all sorts of different bikes. It's just fun. And we geek out on this stuff. That's why we have a mountain bike podcast. And that's why, listener, you're listening to this mountain bike podcast.
Yep.
So, all right. So we talked about dirt jumpers. We talked about e-bikes. Brian Patrick wrote in, what about an e-dirt jumper?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
It does. I thought when I read it, I was like, oh, this is silly. And then his next comment was like, hold on. I just looked it up. It exists. It's a real thing. It exists. Yes. And I just got back from Desert Trails. I rode Desert Trails last week, which is a local here in Phoenix. It's a local jump park. And you pedal up to the top, and then there's 3 different lines. And I was there for a little over an hour, and I rode like over, I think, 7 miles and almost 1,000 feet on the single speed dirt jumper. Like you're cranking that. I probably did 30 laps.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I still need to get back to Sean with my jump count. I haven't done the math yet. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I was tired. I was tired at the end. Like I stopped because I was getting tired. It was supposed to be my off day. It was my off day, so I could ride the next day. But yeah, it gassed me. And I was thinking, boy, if an electric dirt jumper, and you could just like fly to the top and just do downhill laps, like totally fresh. Which goes into another comment that I have soon but we'll talk about that next. Yeah.
Well, before you do, let me just say this for people that don't know what a dirt jumper is. It's basically a larger BMX bike with, typically you'll find like 24 to 26 inch wheels, and they're all single speed. At least the ones that I've known have all been single speed, and they're really hard gear because the point of the pedal is to really just get cranked up to speed really quickly. So these things are not meant to pedal uphill. So even though you go to a bike park and it's like, oh, it's only 50 feet, trying to pedal a dirt jumper, which also is not like you can't sit, like there's no seat. I mean, there's a seat, but the seat isn't meant to be like sat on to climb. It's for you to sit on while you're waiting to do your next lap. It's really more for show. So as crazy as it may sound to like have an dirt jumper, it actually makes a lot of sense because it would literally help you get back to the top much quicker. You're not wasting your energy there. It doesn't, I guess the argument would be the weight. I don't think the weight would make that much of a difference. We're not talking about a big motor. We're not talking about a big battery. You just need a little bit of assistance,
Yeah, it sounds cool. I purposely didn't look it up because I don't want to want one. You know what I mean? Like that's not,
yes,
that is not the next bike coming into my garage. But it's a surprisingly cool idea. And but I love the fitness aspect of it too. It's just, but with the electric, you just get more laps. You just get more laps. You get more sessions, and you're fresher. So our awesome friend Johnny at Mountain Bike Q&A, and Johnny has his live stream on YouTube where he interviews other mountain bike influencers, and he also has a podcast. And check it out; he's hilarious, and his interviews are great.
Yes.
Sage and I have both been on there, so we totally love Johnny and appreciate him. But Johnny commented on that episode, and he wrote, e-bike 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. Not only am I riding further and longer, my skills are so much better now because I'm not exhausted and making poor decisions. I'm not in shape yet. I added that part. And when I get to a certain point of the ride, I'm not even thinking right because he's so tired from, he wrote from bonking, but it's really just from being fatigued. Now I just go so much fun.
Yeah.
And that's something that we haven't touched on too much with the benefit of the e-bike, but you and I have had conversations of like, at what point in the ride do we want to go and try something new or difficult? There's that sweet spot of like being warmed up, being in the flow, but you're not too tired yet. And I thought Johnny makes a great point that he's riding better because he's getting to things and he's not so tired that he can't focus, or he's not so tired that he can't perform well.
Yeah. I love that. I love that for Johnny. I think he's a really busy guy. I mean, he has a full-time job and he does the podcasting, on the side. And so he doesn't have a lot of time for training and all this stuff. And I love the e-bike for him. And I'm so glad that he's getting so much joy out of that bike. I mean, he's just such a good dude.
I thought Johnny's awesome. And when he got that bike, I was like, this is perfect for him. This is great for him. And I think it's even better than he imagined. That's what I'm getting from his comment, is that I'm riding better. So you get more sessions, you get more laps, and you're fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can get tired on an e-bike also, right? You could ride it enough that you're like, okay,
sure.
I'm actually too tired to do this on an e-bike right now. But I thought it was a really interesting point, something that we hadn't considered, is that you're just fresher when you're getting to a lot of these features. And that means that you're going to be more confident and feeling better and flowing into it. So that's happened plenty of times. I mean, I've avoided things because like, okay, I'm too tired to do that feature right now, or I'm too tired to do the climb to get to that feature right now. Like I've already thrashed myself enough, and the e-bike sometimes can just take that out. And then now you're getting more laps and you're having more fun on bikes. That's what it's about.
That's what it's all about.
More terms on following someone blind. This has been an ongoing conversation. And what is it called when you're riding on a trail for the first time, but there's someone in front of you? So riding on a trail for the first time is called riding blind. We've pretty much established the Ride and Laugh dictionary term for riding blind is riding a trail for the first time with nobody in front of you.
Yes.
Full stop.
That's
right.
That's it. Yes.
So you're just like, I have nothing to add because that's the definition that I came up with. And now you put me on the spot and made me look like a dummy. Thanks a lot.
I think the Hawaiian shirt did that. Yeah, but go ahead.
I can make myself look like a dummy pretty good. All right. I don't need your help, Dan. Thanks. All right. So we have some great names out there already. We have a couple of new ones that I thought were good. Doug said blind follow, which I do like because that really kind of sums it up. Blind follow.
Yeah.
And then Alan, and I know he was joking, but it's really funny, said, what about crop dusting?
Crop dusting. Oh, geez.
I think the problem with crop dusting, and then he said, hey, bro,
there's a lot of problems with crop dusting.
Where do we start? Right and left one at Gmail, YouTube comments, the problems with crop dusting. The problem with crop dusting is, if anyone doesn't know what it is, I'm sure it's in the, you can look it up, but essentially someone's had too many beans the night before and they're riding in front of you. And that's the thing. Like, we've all gotten stuck behind a rider that's got gas, and it's horrible. It's terrible. Because you're breathing heavily, you're mountain biking, and your friend up in front of you is crop dusting and laughing about it because you got to like inhale that so strongly. It's one of the worst things about mountain biking.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I take a survey of what everyone ate the night before the ride starts. All right, you're in front of me, you're behind me,
you're in the back,
definitely behind me. Yeah.
Ride order. Yep.
All right. AJ said hitting a feature for the first time, that rider is guinea pig or guinea pigging.
Yes. AJ nailed it. As soon as he said that comment, I was like, I've heard that before, and he's exactly right. Yeah. I said sessioning on the show. I said sessioning, but he's absolutely right. It's called guinea pigging.
Yes.
Thank you, AJ.
Good job, AJ. And then Josh at Slanted Ground, and who's an awesome commenter. And Slanted Ground is apparel and a YouTube channel. So check out Josh and his channel and his apparel. It's awesome. And his channel's really good. Really great instruction. Really insightful guy. Man. And a really great whole comment thread with Josh on this episode between Josh, Sage, and myself that I totally recommend going back and looking at the comments and adding anything if you'd like to. But one of the interesting things that he said, he rides solo 99% of the time. And so he's almost always, doing these features on his own. He's not getting a tow and he's not seeing anybody do it. He in his mind, even if he looks at it, that he would consider riding it blind if it's something that you've never seen someone ride in person. Even if you scope it out, there's a high level of uncertainty. Therefore, you're hitting it blind. So in Josh's mind, I think the difficulty or the level of uncertainty makes it more blind, even though he stopped to look at it. And I can get with that.
That's a very special case, and I would agree. When you say guinea pigging, that's usually because you're the first in a group of people. So you're the guinea pig. You have to test it. If you are like Josh and you're riding by yourself, I think that could still qualify as riding blind. Even though you stopped, you're not testing it for somebody else. In other words, you didn't get to have a conversation with, anybody else. Like, hey, what do you think of this speed? And I'm going to try this. Like, this is literally just you and your thoughts. I think that could qualify as riding blind.
Yeah. I think the more confidence that you have, it's so interesting because, we don't really need like a definitive definition for these things. It's just fun to talk about because we're mountain bikers. But the more confidence that you have, the easier something gets. And I think like the perfect trail when you're riding a new trail is the perfect trail for everybody is going to vary greatly on what you're confident in and what brings you stoke. But it's going to have things that build confidence, that make you feel comfortable, and then push you a little bit. So, when you think about like your favorite trails that you ride, or favorite new trails that you've ridden. And it's like, you know, there's a couple of difficult features in there. You start to feel confident. It's all in your zone. It's all in your skill set. But then there's a couple where you're like, whoa, oh, I can't believe I did that. That was so cool, because you're in the flow, and a really well-built trail kind of like builds your confidence, and then maybe throw something at you that's a little bit harder. And doing something new just adds stoke.
Yeah. Going back to Josh's comment, I was on a ride today at Smedley, and there's this new jump, and it's gapped, but it's a soft case on the other side. Like you could, if you missed it, it wouldn't be, the end of the world, but it's still like you'd want to clear it. I passed it up. And now that I'm thinking about Josh's comment, I'm like, why did I pass it up? Because I did look at it, and as I rode by it, I was like, I think I can do that. And I don't know why I passed it up. There's certainly risk involved, and if I did get hurt, that I'm stuck up there. But at the same time, as I was passing, I was like, I think I could do this one. Like, I absolutely think I could do it. Do you do that at all? Like, I know you like to ride solo a lot.
Yeah. You just listen to your intuition on that. You saw it, and there's probably a dozen things that went through your mind of why it didn't feel right today, including just being cold. Like, I don't want to stop and look at this for too long, or I kind of want this ride to be over. I'm uncomfortable. I want to get back to the car. I want to finish this loop that I have in mind and get back to the car. Like, today is not a day to mess around with doing something new. But, Josh I thought Josh made a really good point in that conversation we were talking about, in those comments that we were talking about, as far as seeing a feature for the first time and not doing it, and then having it get stuck in your head. And I relate to that so much. I think it could be a whole separate podcast topic, but that's what happens, right? We see something, it's in our head. And then for you and I, we start visualizing. I think I can get this. I think I can get this. And so I know you're going to be thinking about that jump at Smedley. And when you're ready, you're going to do it.
I mean, is it as simple as intuition? It's that simple. There's no other.
What else would it be?
I think there's just so many factors. Like you had mentioned, it was cold, and I haven't been jumping that much because I haven't been riding that much. I don't know that I could trust my intuition. I've made some really dumb calls in my riding career, going with my intuition. That's not always right.
Were you? Well, were you? Or were you going with something else? Yeah, I would argue that you were not going with your intuition when you made those quote unquote dumb decisions. And each one of those things, you paid the price because you were not going with intuition. I can only speak for myself, but we talk about some of my recent crashes that we've talked about on this podcast, and doing things for the right reasons versus doing things for the wrong reasons. And when we settle into presence, when we're just here and we're just in this moment, and we're doing it because in the flow of the moment, it feels good, it's exciting. Not, I look at this, I should be able to do this. I look at the size of that jump and I should be able to do that. That's not intuition. That's a thought. That's an obligation thought. That's a should thought. Though that's not intuition. Intuition is, I'm excited. This feels good. I got this.
I didn't look at it and say I should be able to do it. I looked at it and I said, I think I can. But there's the question. I think I can. And so when are we forcing something, and when are we actually going with intuition? I think I can. I looked at that. What does that mean? Like, I looked at that gap and I said, I've done gaps of this distance before. I haven't done this one, and there are each jump or each feature. I mean, we're talking about a jump now, but each feature, no matter what it is, has its subtleties and its little nuances. Not every drop is the same. Maybe the entrance is a little bit different. Maybe the landing is shorter, longer, whatever it is that you're doing, it's going to be subtly different. And this gap had some subtle differences, but the distance I looked at and I said, I think I can, but I didn't. If I was going with intuition, the intuition would have been, you can do it. I don't, when are you forcing something? When do you know if you're forcing it?
Anytime that you were not present. I would say the fact that you're saying intuition would have told me to do it meant that you were not present. If you're not able to access intuition, then that's the sign, right? We find signs that we're not looking for them, but they come. If you're not able to access that flow state of, oh, I totally got this, then that's intuition telling you, I'm not ready. I'm not ready, or today's not the day. I can do this. I think I can do this, but today's not the day. I just had this experience on my solo ride at Gold Canyon. There's a loop at Gold Canyon called the Tech Loop, and it's really cool, and it's got a whole bunch of optional tech lines.
Yeah.
None of them are unbelievably difficult. They're all, I've done just about all of them, but there's one feature there that's this like big giant pile of rocks. And if you hit it right, you can keep your speed. You can go up to the left, and then there's a drop, like one of those downward facing drops.
Oh, I hate those.
Off,
yeah.
You know, we always, like they was always getting our heads a little bit. There's a downward facing drop off, and there's rocks in the landing. I don't know exactly where you're going to land. I've looked at this thing dozens of times. And then I was on this ride, and I was approaching that part, and I was just like open to it. I didn't think I was going to do it. I was just open to it. And I hit that pile of rocks perfectly so that I had enough speed, and I dropped it perfectly. And so I thought, well, so I set up the tripod, and I was like, well, I'm going to do it again. And it actually worked out great because I got to cement it in.
Yeah.
You know, and the second time I did it even better. I was even more balanced. I was even more confident, and I was so stoked.
Yeah.
I had never done it before. And then it just hit me. I got this.
I love it, man. I love it. And congratulations, by the way. That is awesome.
Thank you.
That is riding blind. That is what Josh was talking about, you know, going at something by yourself. There's nobody else to have a conversation with. It's just you and the feature, you know. And yeah, that's I did see the video of that, and it looked really impressive, bro. I hate downward facing drops. It's probably, if I had to pick one feature in mountain biking that I do not enjoy, it's downward facing drops.
It's totally in our head, right? I mean, I don't think I've ever done a downward facing drop that's
they're terrible.
Harder than a regular drop. Does it just need more body English?
It's everything about it is uncomfortable, Danny, because your every instinct in your body is like, I need to pull up. I need to do something. Like it's not gonna, the trajectory is all wrong. You feel like you're falling before you're falling. That's the problem. You know, with a drop, it's like you have up until the very last second, you can control everything. And it's like, I'm not falling. With a downward drop, you're already falling before you're falling. And so it's just a really uncomfortable position. It's terrible. Is there anything worse?
I think it's just visual. I mean, I think every time I see one, I don't like the way it looks, and I have to talk myself into it. And then when I ride it, it feels fine. I think it's more visual than anything. I don't know. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments, downward facing drops. What features do you consider the hardest features? Are there features that you look at that seem harder looking at it than actually doing it? And the downward facing drop, are you with Dan and Sage on this one? Does that one kind of sketch you out? And then, actually riding it, I don't know that it's that much harder.
The Escalade drop at Rocky Ridge is a great example. That drop is, what is it? That's like 4 feet, 3 feet. It's not, for us, it's not that big. We've done 3 foot, 4 foot drops. But the fact that it tilts down at the very end makes it a really uncomfortable drop. It's
the Escalade drop is at Rocky Ridge in Pennsylvania, New York, Pennsylvania. It's really just a big giant rock. You ride up onto this rock and then you ride off of it. But the off part, it's facing down, and the landing, there's a tree there, there's roots there, like it's kind of a sniper landing.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
And the thing about that one is that sometimes these, like, you don't know where to exit. If the exit zone is wide enough,
that's another
you kind of have options on where to exit. And with the Escalade drop, you have to exit at the right place, or you could hit a root or you could hit a tree. Like
Danny, that's all downward drops. You can't see the exit, but like you're already, you know what I mean? With a regular drop, like you can see the exit point. Like you can actually draw a line, and it's like, okay, I'll aim for that line. Yeah. With a downward drop, you can't. You have to pick something in the distance. It's all wrong. It's all wrong.
There's just not much to do. I feel like on a drop, like once you have that drop technique, there's just not much to do. Like you can get in that low attack position, Some are scarier than others for sure, but there's a technique to it. And if you stay centered and you stay low and you stay in your technique, it's really the same thing. We've talked about this as we started doing bigger and bigger drops at Mountain Creek. The height of the drop got bigger, but the technique stayed the same, and we felt good each time. When you start seeing some of these drops that aren't at bike parks, maybe they're on trail systems, so they're not quite as manicured or as smooth, and maybe they're facing up, which is then is that a jump? And maybe they're facing down. Now do I have to put a move in here? I'm not just doing my regular drop technique. I have to also pull up, right? How much body movement is needed in here? It gets a little bit scarier. Right and Left wanted Gmail and YouTube comments on drops, upward facing, downward facing versus the level drop, right?
An upward facing drop would be a step down. That would be more of a step down, depending on how much incline there is. If you think about all the
step down jump,
right? Like like Hans Ray, you could call that a drop, but it's not. It's a step down because the drop actually comes up. It rises a little bit, and so you're kind of launching off of that.
The big drop on the Big O trail, is that what it's called? Puro at Halls.
The Big O. Oh. That's from The Office, by the way, the movie.
Hold on. Puro and Big O aren't really all that different. I mean, look it up on Trailforce, the name of that trail. So the actual name of that trail. You need big balls to send that drop. Let me tell you right now. And I think it's upward facing. We have video of AJ doing it like incredibly smooth. And that's one of those features, like Josh was saying, I rode by it and it is in my head, man. Like I am thinking about that. I am thinking about it and I'm going to get there. It's just a matter of time, and I'll know when. I'm not going to put any pressure on it. I'm not saying next time I ride that trail, I'm doing it. I'll know when. I'm thinking about it, and I can see it happening. But that has that little upward, at what point does it go from a jump to a drop? Like if it's facing upward a little bit, it's a little bit of a jump. But how much jumping do you really need to put into it? Like when we talk about desert trails or Phoenixville Bike Park, like those jumps, you need to put body English into them. You don't just ride off of them. A drop, you could still just ride off of.
A step down for me requires a little bit more body English, a little bit more movement. And it's usually really hard to see the landing until you're actually on the edge or in the air. And that's the difference for me when it comes to a step down. So it sounds like the Puro one would not be a drop. I would call that a step down, but maybe this is one for our listeners to kind of give us some guidance, but that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, I need to see the Puro drop again or whatever we're calling that. But Ride and Laugh one at Gmail and YouTube comments on Sage's definition of a step down versus a drop. We're adding more and more terms to the Mountain Bike Dictionary. We've had some pre-orders. Hey. We've had some pre-orders for the Mountain Bike Dictionary. It's going to be funny. It's going to be a funny dictionary. It's going to be a lot of fun because it's going to be the Ride and Laugh Mountain Bike Dictionary, not just not just mountain bike. Ride and Laugh terms in there also. So we appreciate everybody listening. This is the part of the pod where certainly at any point in the pod, you can go in and make sure that you give us a 5-star review on your podcast player and on the YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up and tell your friend about us. And on Apple, you can actually leave a review and we appreciate all that. Help the podcast grow. I got to tell this story, which I just think is so funny because I rode with Somo Jeff or Jeff Windsor or Jeff Wynn. We have so many Jeffs riding on the podcast now that we need to get some nicknames going. And one nickname that we're not going to use for Jeff Windsor or Somo Jeff is Poor Jeff, because we were laughing so hard. I rode with him on Saturday and he told me this story about he's home recovering, he recovering from something and he's home and he's like, oh, I have time to watch the Ride and Laugh YouTube. And then out of left field, he hears Sage start to exclaim, and poor Jeff Windsor, because Jeff was following Kyle over this South Mountain jump, and Kyle looks amazing. Jump, quote unquote, pile of rocks. And Kyle looks incredible because he's Kyle and he's amazing. And Jeff looks regular. And so your point was poor Jeff Windsor because he looks normal next to extraordinary Kyle. And Jeff said, like, just at that moment, his wife walks in the room, just at the moment that you're exclaiming, poor Jeff Windsor, poor Jeff Windsor has to follow Kyle. So we were laughing about it quite a bit. Jeff has an awesome sense of humor. We were laughing about it. And he started calling himself poor Jeff. And I was like, that will not do. I am not calling you poor Jeff. That is way too low vibe. And I think it's hilarious, but I'm not going to call you that. And after the ride, I was talking to my wife, Lauren, and I was telling her the story, and we were having a good laugh about it. And she said, I think poor Jeff should be a definition that goes in the Ride and Laugh dictionary of a rider that's following someone who's so good, the rider behind looks less than. That's a poor Jeff. What do you think?
No, I'm not for it because it looks bad on me.
What? Poor Sage Thompson. Poor Sage Thompson.
Yes, let's go with that. Jeff. Let's go with poor Sage.
Play that for your wife. Poor Sage.
Oh, I feel bad. I feel terrible. I didn't mean it to be that way. And I was quick to catch myself. And yeah, he hit that so well. But it's a different style. A mountain bike style versus Kyle style. As for calling it a poor Jeff, it doesn't feel right. No, it's too negative. It's too negative. No.
I thought that was brilliant. Ride and Laugh on a Gmail YouTube comments. It's not calling Jeff poor Jeff. It's the poor Jeff is the rider behind the more skilled rider looking normal. Should it just be the poor, that person's the poor person? Poor blank? If you're riding behind someone who looks really good. That happens to me here all the time. I'm poor Jeff behind Jeff himself often. I'm poor Jeff and behind Jeff, the actual Jeff.
Oh boy. We'll have to start calling him PJ.
All right, bud. Why don't we, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? There's anything that I missed?
No, I think we got it all, man. I do want to say this was a tremendous response. It was the most comments that we've received on a video. And I do want to say a huge shout out to all of our listeners and viewers who left a comment. It's awesome. It's nice to know. I love reading all the comments, and I'm learning so much from this. And I hope everyone else is learning just as much as you and I are. So thank you, everyone.
Yes, I totally agree. That actually ties into my mountain bike gratitude of the week very nicely. I talked about what my wife is going through, what my family's going through with my wife fighting cancer and moving to Arizona. And I got just a tremendous amount of positive response. And it's just very nice. We're a community, and I feel like mountain biking is a community, and I feel like Ride and Laugh is a community. We're just incredibly grateful for all of our listeners. I got my mountain bike gratitude of the week is going to be a specific email that I received from Nick. It was a very long, very, very cool email. I enjoyed reading it. We had a nice exchange. So I'm just going to read a small excerpt that I thought really sums up what we're talking about. And Nick wrote, I love the positivity you guys brought to the table in a world full of consumerism. I feel what you consume online or on a screen really is impactful on your mental health without you even realizing it. So if you're going to be watching stuff, why not watch videos that have a positive impact and contain information that's valuable, which your videos do? I've always been a mindset person when it comes to work, but never thought just how important mindset is in mountain biking until I started watching your podcast. I just want to say thank you. Please keep going. I feel your podcast can do great things for the cycling community and hopefully draw more people into getting on the saddle. So
I love it, man.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, it means a lot to us. We're not making our abundance yet on Ride and Laugh podcast, but we love having these conversations, and we love the positive vibes, and we love the comments and the exchange, and knowing that we're helping people like with messages like this. It really just warms my heart, and it's really more than, obviously we're not doing this for money. The money's going to come, but we're doing this because we love doing this, and we love getting this message out there, and knowing that it's resonating and helping people is to me is just like awesome. It's infinitely awesome. So thank you for sharing that comment, Nick. It meant a lot to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Nick. That is Gosh, now my gratitude, I should have went first. Now my gratitude is going to sound terrible.
Oh, poor Sage. Poor Sage has to follow Dan's excellent gratitude. And now your gratitude is not going to look as good. I'm sorry. Karma is a bitch, my friend. What goes around comes around. Jeff Windsor's laughing all the way. God.
Actually, my gratitude will look as good because my gratitude is actually for Sticker Mule. And we, Dan and I, got new, here we go. Not the mug. We got new Ride and Laugh stickers made. And I got to tell
Mugs
you, bro.
Mugs are coming.
Mugs are coming. Oh, yeah, they're coming. But yeah, these stickers are awesome. Thank you, Sticker Mule. I've worked with them in the past. If you are someone that is looking to get stickers, I would highly recommend. They do a great job. Danny, you have your stickers as well. So next time you see Danny, bug him for a sticker. Thank you, Sticker Mule.
Yeah, definitely ask us, remind us if you see us and we don't offer you a sticker, it's only because we forgot, because we're big dummies and we're focused on being intuitive about the features we're riding. So feel free to ask. We're going to have stickers with us and we'll be offering and giving them out. I'm excited to see where we spot Ride and Laugh stickers.
I love it. I love it. My mountain bike tip goes back to a ride that I referenced earlier in this podcast, which is my ride at Smedley. And I tried a new trick today in order to warm up my gloves, and it worked out fantastically. And so I'm going to share it. So typically what I do when I'm going on a cold winter ride, I actually put my gloves on the defrost. But that requires you to keep your...
You have the defrost on, which is blowing the hot air up the windshield.
Right.
And so then you're putting your gloves on top of the dashboard, and that's getting like maximum heat onto them. Okay. Yes, I've seen you do that. But some work.
Yes. Right. And sometimes, that works, but sometimes you don't want to drive with your defrost on or whatever. I tried a new technique. My seats have a heater in them, but even if they don't have a heater in them, this still works. I put my gloves underneath my rear end as I was driving to the trailhead, and
you crop dusted.
My gloves were warm. And I crop dusted on the gloves.
You crop dusted the whole way to the trails. There is a side effect that your gloves will smell horribly. You get out of the car and your buddy smells like an outhouse. Oh, I see you used your tip of the week.
Right and left tip.
Cold weather. Cold hands. Smells like poop in here. Oh, cold hands. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. That makes sense though. So if you have the seat heater on and you sit on the gloves, they're going to be super, super toasty by the time you get to the trail.
It worked, Danny. Yeah, it worked. Yeah. And so I didn't have to, so the whole ride up, I had the heat blowing on me. I didn't have to use the defrost. And meanwhile, the gloves are getting heated by my rear end. So it was fantastic and I'm passing it along.
Okay. Only bad side effects is if you happen to crop dust on your way to the trails. We don't know what that's going to do to the scent of your hand post ride. So
it would be bad. Yes.
Yeah. A little disclaimer there. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail and YouTube comments. What techniques are you using to keep your equipment warm on the way to the trails for these cold weather rides everywhere else but Arizona? What are the techniques? Who's sitting on their gloves? Who else is doing that? Who else has figured something out? So great stuff. Great tip. As always, we appreciate that. We appreciate all of our listeners. If you are still listening, you're absolutely one of us. You love mountain biking. We appreciate you. Gratitude. Please rate and subscribe on your podcast player. Please give us 5 stars. Please tell your friends about us. Please share the Ride and Laugh podcast and give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Join the comments. Feel free to email us. We appreciate everybody. Gratitude. Have a fantastic week and a great week of riding. Ride and Laugh.
I'll see you, everyone.